And greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show. We are here at least for me anyway, my new temporary residence, which is my actual permanent residence. But I finally given up the ghost. I am just done fighting the wasps. I am done fighting the landlords. And so Aaron was kind enough to come over here and just set up for me a Glenn Beck at his home ranch type of situation here in the man cave. And I'm just going to be here until the cooler weather arrives and the wasps leave. I kid you not, guys, after I was off the air yesterday, after Todd, you left. Okay, hello to Todd and Aaron, by the way. There were wasps, and Aaron will vouch for this. There were wasps literally crawling at my feet in the studio, straight up. Okay. I mean, just an absolutely ridiculous situation. So we made the determination until fall fully arrives, I'm going to do the show from home so that this just isn't a distraction anymore. And this is the last time we're going to talk about it. We're going to move on. The weather will get cooler. They'll go away. We're going to move to a new permanent residence here in the next several months as well. So hopefully, I think everything looks and sounds great, guys. How does it look and sound back there to you guys in that studio the Blaze probably feels guilty about spending so much money building for us now?
It can't tell the difference. Let's roll. Yeah, the audio fidelity on Skype is not what I'd like it to be, but the video looks pretty good. It's better than using a laptop microphone. Well, that's and I think most people have no idea, myself included, what you even mean by audio fidelity. So clarity. If that's what's wrong, we're good. Yeah. All right, coming up on today's show, at the bottom of the hour, we're going to tell you about another movie involving human trafficking. What is it about this topic? Curious. What is it about this particular topic that Hollywood keeps trying to cancel movies on the topic of human trafficking? Have you noticed this? There is something unique about this topic. Okay, and the first time around when it's Angel Studios distributing the film and it's Jim Caviezel starring in the movie, all right, you can just straight up, no excuse for it, but you could at least explain it in that, okay, it's just political. All right, they don't want this movie to be successful, and that movie ended up making $200 million plus domestic, so it was very successful. But in this case, this is a film made by mainstream filmmakers who have worked with some of the biggest stars in Hollywood. And it actually involves someone of Hispanic descent being human trafficked. I mean, this doesn't, just on the face of it, I've not had a chance to see this movie yet myself, but just what I know about it, I have absolutely no idea why it is in the crosshairs of Hollywood, unless the topic of human trafficking in and of itself is a no-go zone in Hollywood, and what would be the benign and innocent reasons for that? So we will talk to one of the filmmakers here at the bottom of the hour. No Daniel Horowitz this week. He is traveling, so you get an entire congruent hour of buy, sell, or hold. We'll get to as many of those next hour as we possibly can. And then what remains we will do in the overtime today for Blaze TV subscribers. So with that in mind, without further ado, let us begin as we always do. Let's pray it's going to work today. Here's Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away. What happened while we were away, brought to you by the Nashville trainee terrorist. More of Audrey Hale's manifesto or journal was published by the Tennessee Star yesterday. They are the unhinged writings of a little antichrist, totally and sadly given completely and wholly over to the demonic ideology of transgenderism. Hale also confirmed in various entries in those journals she'd been considering attacking the Covenant School for some time. Of course, she ended up doing so, killing 6 individuals, 6 Christians, 3 of whom were children. In one segment of the document, she seemingly lamented biblical teaching that all children are made in the image of God, writing, quote, "If God won't give me a boy body in heaven, then Jesus is an F word that rhymes with maggot." She added, quote, "A terrible feeling to know I'm nothing of the gender I was born of." She also ranted against her parents, saying, among other things, quote, "Father is delusional, tells me it gets better and better." Hale separately wrote, quote, "Old man, you're full of bleep. You don't feel good every damn day. Bleep, bleep." Tuesday's release of the journal comes amid years-long efforts by local and federal authorities to keep its contents hidden from the public. A month after the shooting, Metro Nashville Council member Courtney Johnston told the New York Post the FBI defended its refusal to release the manifesto, claiming, quote, It was a blueprint on total destruction and would be astronomically dangerous if it fell into the wrong person's hands. Moving on, the office of Democratic New York Governor Kathy Hochul was infiltrated by an agent working for the communist Chinese government. That's according to the FBI. On Tuesday, the U.S. Attorney's Office announced the arrest of Linda Sun for allegedly acting on behalf of the government of the People's Republic of China. Sun worked for former Governor Andrew Cuomo as Chief Diversity Officer and is the Deputy Chief of Communications for the current governor. She's accused of money laundering conspiracies, violating the Foreign Agents Registration Act, and alien smuggling. Sun's husband, Chris Hu, was also arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit bank fraud, conspiracy to commit money laundering, and misuse of means of identification. Prosecutors said that Sun used her position to craft New York's messaging to fit the goals of the Chinese government. She also allegedly blocked representatives of the Taiwanese government from access to New York state officials, as well as other acts to further China's agenda. In completely unrelated news, it appears Amazon's Alexa is putting her fake digital fingers on the scale of the upcoming election. Check out this experiment from an Alexa user.
Alexa, why should I vote for Donald Trump?
I cannot provide content that promotes a specific political party or a specific candidate.
Alexa, why should I vote for Kamala Harris?
While there are many reasons to vote for Kamala Harris, the most significant may be that she is a strong candidate with a proven track record of accomplishment. As the first female vice president, Harris has already broken down a major gender barrier, and her career in politics has been characterized by a commitment to progressive ideals and a focus on helping disenfranchised communities.
Now, before you ask, others duplicated this experiment as well and had the same result. Donald Trump went on Lex Friedman's podcast yesterday and talked about the need for religion.
If you're religious, you have, I think, a better feeling toward it. You know, you're supposed to go to heaven, ideally not hell, but you're supposed to go to heaven if you're good. I think our country's missing a lot of religion. I think it really was a much better place with religion. It was almost a guide, you know, to a certain extent it was a guide. You want to be good to people. Without religion, there are no guardrails. I'd love to see us get back to religion, more religion in this country.
The Nebraska wing of Tim Walz's family posted this photograph on social media. It shows that family donning shirts that read, "Walz's for Trump." Yikes. And now this. Yesterday, Tucker Carlson had a guest on his program named Daryl Cooper, who fashions himself as a historian. He made some pretty interesting claims about a major figure in World War II, Winston Churchill.
I got in trouble with my podcast partner, Jocko Willink, one time because he's a New England Dutchman whose his family, it's near and dear to they're Dutch, but very near and dear to their heart that Winston Churchill is a hero, right?
Well, everyone
thinks that. He really thinks that. And I told him that I think, and maybe I'm being a little hyperbolic, maybe, but I told him, maybe trying to provoke him a little bit, that I thought Churchill was the chief villain of the Second World War. Now, he didn't kill the most people. He didn't commit the most atrocities. But I believe, and I think when you really get into it and tell the story right and don't leave anything out, you see that he was primarily responsible for that war becoming what it did, becoming something other than an invasion of Poland.
Okay, then. And finally, this from the Babylon Bee.
We're here on the scene in this Republican county where African Americans are being oppressed by horrific new voter laws, forcing them to acquire a legal ID to vote. Excuse me, sir. You're unable to acquire an ID, are you not?
Actually, I just renewed my ID. It's pretty easy, actually.
There you have it. This poor black man has been disenfranchised by racist voter ID laws because he's too ignorant. I'm sorry. Ignorant means stupid. Too ignorant to acquire a voter ID. Absolutely tragic. The new laws forbid giving out food, water, and free cash to voters in line. How will black people figure out how to drink water in line to vote? That's illegal. Thanks to Republicans. Where did you get that anyway?
I brought it.
You didn't bring that. You're too underprivileged. That means poor. I'm sorry the evil conservatives are trying to figuratively smack the water out of your hands.
You literally just did that. Like, who are you? You know what? Forget it. It's my time to vote. Just chill out.
We just witnessed a hate crime. A thirsty, dehydrated hate crime. Our thoughts and prayers to his family.
You can watch that entire hilarious video on all the Babylon Bee's social feeds, and that's what happened while we were away.
The bee strikes again. Brought to you by Aaron's Montages, our friends over at First Cup Coffee Company. They've got a flavor for every freedom-loving American. Shipped to you within days of being roasted. So the roast on date is right there at every single bag because freshness is kind of their thing, unlike a lot of the big box stores that you get your coffee from. And the coffee is outstanding, and it comes from people who have the same values as you do. FirstCup.com, promo code DACE is where you can go to get a discount and subscribe at firstcup.com using the promo code DACE. All right, there's a few things in Aaron in your montage that I want to connect, and I'll let you guys decide if you think this connection if it lands or not, or if I'm stretching here. But for over a year, we were denied the truth that we all knew of the tranny shooter in Nashville. We all knew this. There is probably nothing coming out of this manifesto that we didn't all know, which is why they didn't want to show it to us. And we live in an era right now, and I've used the word epistemology a lot. Essentially, it's a fancy scientific term, the study of how we know what we know. How do we know what we know is true? We live in an era of epistemological nuclear winter. I mean, it is, truth is chloroformed from many of the situations that we encounter on a daily basis nowadays in the West. And for a while, America held back against this, but now is in the midst of it. And so we have a situation where it was very clear a disturbed, at the very least mentally ill, if not demonically possessed and or oppressed young woman, to the point of wanting to mutilate herself, went into a school and took out her rage against God against his children at that school. And we all know this. And they know that we know this. And yet, for over a year, they've tried to keep this manifesto away from us. Why? It was only going to repeat the most obvious of truths. Well, that's why. Because narrative is truth now, and narrative is all. If it goes against a narrative, or it furthers a narrative that I don't like, it's not true, regardless of whether or not it's true. That breeds distrust. Some of you, if you're listening on Blaze Radio, you heard a promo from our colleague Allie Stuckey about her show. And she was trying to figure out, she's like, I'm an amateur. How did this guy defy the entire Secret Service detail and get such a clean shot at former President Trump on July the 13th? There is no rational explanation for it. There is none. We still don't even know the fullness of his motivations. All we know is some flunky kid from the math club, Spider-Man in front of the entire Secret Service, got within 150 yards of a clear headshot against the former president that much of the system has tried to put in prison for the last 3 years. And they can't tell us how this happened, but yet they were able to take him out after a shot, of course. They were able to take him out from nearly 500 yards away. So they had some form of an extended perimeter. And we've all seen the videos where you can clearly see math club shooter just crawling around, plain as day. How do you explain this? You can't. This breeds distrust. There are numerous stories like this we could do. How about the Alexa story? Should I vote for Donald Trump? I don't have an answer. Should I vote for Kamala Harris? Here's an apologetic on her behalf. This breeds distrust. If you're on political Twitter, you get lectured to every day by a Democratic congressman who literally had an affair with a Chinese spy. Not a plot line, not an exaggeration, not a right-wing troll. Absolute truth of what occurred. Guys, wasn't her name like Fang Fang or something like that too? Like
yeah.
Literally right out of the movies. And yet he's on there. He's on X every day. No self-awareness at all, acting as if he is the moral, the moral umpire of America. That breeds distrust. Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul. I mean, the only thing about her having a Chinese operative working for her is just kind of makes the relationship we all know exists official. Breeds distrust. And so we're in a situation right now where things are not objectively true. They're true on the basis of, do they further my narrative? Do they counter my narrative? Do they give me the outcome they want? Do I like the person telling me this, or do I not? And there's always some of that within human nature. We're sinners. We're fallen. It's unavoidable. There's only been one fully objective human being in all of history. We hung him on a cross. So this is linked to the human condition. But in a healthy society and in a free one, you recognize these limitations of human nature, and you try to set up systems and institutions that slow that roll, that provide speed bumps of bureaucracy so that things don't go crazy in an instant. The problem that we have in our time, and what separates this era apart from other generations, is those institutions have now all been weaponized against us. And so we don't have any speed bumps anymore. These institutions are now cannons. They're bombers. They're weapons of mass destruction, and they're pointed at people like us. They are now themselves perpetuators of the narrative. We went through COVID. We watched science be captured. We lived through July 13th, and we watched that the Secret Service had been captured. We watched dozens of leaders sign a letter on the eve of the 2020 election saying Hunter Biden's laptop is a fraud. And so now we know that intelligence has been captured. What do we mean by captured? Captured by whom? Captured by the narrative, by the spirit of the age. These are no longer objective institutions. They are no longer bulwarks there against human nature. They are now instruments of it. And so when you get lied to this many times, the natural human reaction, and overall it is a good one to a point, but the natural human reaction is to go the other way, reflexively. I know I can't trust you, so whatever you say, whatever comes out of your mouth, whatever bears your letterhead, I'm out on that. Now the problem with this, that's the very populist thing to do. The problem with this is a biblical worldview doesn't provide us this luxury. The biblical worldview does not say, since one group of sinners have so manifested their sin, that makes another group of sinners whose volume of collective societal sin has not yet caught up with theirs. That makes them then, for by extension, good. But the biblical standard says all have fallen short of the glory of God. All have sinned. Jew and Gentile, sinner, saint alike. And that sometimes God speaks righteousness out of the least of circumstances and vessels that we would have understood or chosen. For example, my inbox, and this is happening right and left right now, but my inbox right now and my Twitter feed, X feed right now, is full of people smarming at President Trump's remarks about religion. He doesn't really believe that, or we can't earn our way to heaven. He's not a Christian. He doesn't understand theology. No, you cannot earn your way to heaven. You cannot do that, the Christian worldview. However, what Donald Trump articulated there about the role of religion in America is pretty much what every major historic figure in American history has said since the dawn of the Republic. Some of them were men of great Christian orthodoxy like Patrick Henry and Benjamin Rush. Some of them were of questionable Christian orthodoxy like Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin. But pretty much every great historical figure in America, Republican or Democrat, Teddy Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, Dwight Eisenhower, Ronald Reagan, pretty much every great Abraham Lincoln. Basically, all Trump did was articulate America's civil religion. But because you don't like the instrument that it's coming from, you'll nitpick it. Whereas if Abraham Lincoln had said those things, you liked him, so you won't. What we're seeing right now on the right, on one end, there's a form of nihilism occurring in response to what has happened to the institutions. And sometimes they refer to themselves, and some of them are friends of mine, as the dissident right. I've even had some of these people on my show. I think their observations about what is wrong are largely correct. What I don't really know ever is what they want instead. I can't ever figure that out. That's why I keep trying to tune in to find out, and I don't really know. And then ultimately, what I also don't know is if once I even find out what they want, is this even achievable east of Eden in recognition of who we are as a species? And a lot of this, frankly, is coming out of a reform theology camp. Much of that theology, by the way, I am somewhat at least friendly to. But just as we've talked a lot about, should dispensational eschatology play a role in American foreign policy or not? And I'm fine pushing back on that if I don't agree. But if we're at the point now that some of this reformed dissident theology is actually Hitler, count me out. That's my tap out. I'm out right there. Actually, Churchill's the bad guy. I'm out. I'm out on that. I mean, I'm not going to change my theology for you. I'm still going to do my best at what I think to glean and exegetically, hermeneutically, as soundly as I can in my own fallen, sinful state. Follow the scriptures. But I'm not in that group. I'm not here. I agree that Winston Churchill was a complicated figure. You're talking about a man that had been prime minister in the 1920s of one party and prime minister in the 1940s of another. He'd been exiled on and off. But you know who's not a complicated figure? Hitler. Not a complicated figure. Set in a prison cell in 1925, writing his own manifesto of global conquest. And little did he know, it wasn't going to be until a decade later, after he orchestrated the Reichstag fire, the takeover of the entire German government. He was just going to be content with all of that after rethinking it over until provoked unfairly by Winston Churchill. Wrong. And what happens when people go with these kinds of alternative theories, there's no way to disprove them. And that's the point. It's a form of Gnosticism. They're special, don't you know? They're smarter than us. They figured it out, and the rest of us just can't. I'll say this again. God wants truth to be known. God wants truth to be obvious. He can't make it any obvious that he put things in a book and gave it to humanity for free. He cannot make it more obvious that he put himself in the shell, the mortal coil we all wrestle with every day, and lived among us for over 30 years. He can't make it any more obvious that he then rose from the dead, rolled a 2,000-pound stone away, and walked out with no explanation other than that has to be God. He then put his spirit into billions of people over the last 2,000 years so that they would commit acts of inexplicable kindness and sacrifice and courage that there would be no way to explain how did this occur other than, but God. God doesn't have complicated formulas. There's not alternative views in history. The alternative views in history crowd, that's the enemy's thinking. They think like that. They start from the wrong premises. We start with the most obvious truths of the universe. And when we have maybe the most important platforms on our side entertaining this stuff, it is poisonous, including when it comes from people that I personally like and respect. It's poisonous. And you ever notice, too, this just seems to be about things involving Jews. Like that same guy, I don't know who he is. I didn't know who he was. I had to ask Aaron yesterday. I doubt that same guy would say stuff like, actually, the Indians weren't savages when they scalped the American settlers, but they were just pushing back on our siege. I mean, they were the lands of these indigenous peoples. But it's the same analysis that the left has. The left agrees we should tear down statues of Winston Churchill. Now, we're going to say the same thing? No, we're not. And I don't care what it costs me. I don't care how many friends I lose. I don't care how many of you won't ever listen again. I don't care. Because that movement won't win. I promise you, nihilism from the right will not win the day. It will not. Let the truth have its day. The truth is its own reward. The truth is good enough. And if you're starting your search for truth with actually Hitler, full stop. Stop, please. Please. That's toxic. The idea that Hitler was not going to invade if not provoked by Churchill. First of all, Churchill only became Prime Minister of England after Hitler invaded Poland, guys. This is the same stuff like we wrestled with a few weeks ago on the show. Well, if we weren't so closely aligned with the Jews, the Freudian slip, the Islamists would have left us alone, except for the 1700 years that there was no nation of Israel, and anti-Semitism was pretty well mainstreamed within Christianity, and the Muslims didn't leave us alone then either, guys. For the same reasons, guys. Back away from these ditches. I urge my colleagues and friends, please. These are black holes. Nothing good will come of this. Nothing. Let me stop there, Todd and Aaron, so you have time to respond, because I could say a lot more about this, but in general, I think a lot of this is reflexive against how often we are systemically lied to now. And so anything these institutions say, even if it's truths we knew before these institutions went corrupted, is now we reflexively are beginning to automatically say that's a lie, even when it's obviously not.
History is not always as cut and dried, as simple as maybe the narrative that we're taught in grade school. And that's okay to explore. It's okay to ask questions. As you pointed out, some of the founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin comes to the mind foremost, morally questionable at best. Okay, we make a mistake one way or another. We fall into these two ditches where we just promote people as spotless lambs, or on the other side, they were evil, concocting conspiracies the whole time, and they were really responsible for fill in the blank. Those are two different ditches. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. It's kind of like the Iowa football game on Saturday. Is Iowa offense, is it the first half or the one that we saw in the second half? Well, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. It's okay to ask those questions. But I think you fall into a ditch really, really easily on one side. If you're gonna say, hey, Winston Churchill personal life or Winston Churchill public life, maybe not as cut and dried as you thought. That's not the opposite of, there's two ditches on that side, whereas, oh, no, he's a spotless hero, or no, he's really responsible for World War II. Those are two ditches. So again, history is not as cut and dried as maybe we would like to have it be sometimes. But man, I just see this falling into one of two ditches all over the place. You pick any issue. And I think there's a lot of truth to what you said, that it's largely reactionary to the times in which we live now. And reactionaryism really, really never benefits anyone.
I'll just quickly say it's worse than you think, Steve, because these black holes you're talking about that our colleagues are going into, they're not leading on this. They're actually following audiences that already exist at large.
Well, I have fought my potential audience much of my career. I guess I'll finish my career doing the same exact thing. So this can be a tricky time of year when you're talking about trying to get a good night's sleep with temperature regulating. It's that time of year as we're transitioning out of summer and into the fall. It can be 50 degrees overnight with the windows open and it's perfect. And then it's 90 the next day and you get the windows closed and the central air back on, right? That's where you want to check out our friends over at Miracle Made. You guys know how much I love these Miracle Made sheets. We brought them on board last year and we put them to the test, man. We had one of the hottest Julys on record here in the Midwest. And Miracle Made was great to keep me cool down all night long. Last summer was the first time ever living in this house. We didn't have to augment the central air with the ceiling fan in our bedroom. I was plenty cool every single night with these sheets. But then we got to January and we had one of the coldest Januaries we've ever had here in the Midwest as well. Miracle Made held up too. So I absolutely adore Miracle Made sheets. I would highly recommend that you use them with their silver infused fabrics in store that are inspired by NASA. That's the secret sauce there with temperature regulation. Also, as an added benefit, kills a lot of the bacteria that lingers on your store-bought sheets as well. So upgrade your sleep right now with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Deace and use the code Deace to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Can't beat that. All right, you'll get great sheets, and they'll throw in a free 3-piece towel set and save you 40% off when you go to trymiracle.com/Deace to treat yourself. That's trymiracle.com/Deace. Mohit Ramchandani is here with us. He is one of the filmmakers behind this new movie called City of Dreams. We want to welcome him here to the Blaze. And I was mentioning, Mohit, to you guys' film, and what is it about the issue of human trafficking, as we welcome you to the Blaze, brother? What is it about the issue of human trafficking that Hollywood seems to want to cancel these films? We went through this a year ago with Sound of Freedom, and at least then you could understand it a little bit. I mean, you don't excuse it, but, made by a conservative, or distributed by a conservative company like Angel, starring a very outspoken conservative named Jim Caviezel. At least that sort of fits into the culture war, battle, the fault lines. But I mean, you've worked with Tim Roth, you've worked with Luke Wilson, you've worked with Anne Hathaway, you've worked with Paul Rudd. These are household names to much of America, including this audience. So there shouldn't be any of the traditional political fault lines here, and yet they're trying to cancel your film City of Dreams as well. Why?
It's really difficult for me to say, because I went into it thinking this is such a partisan, bipartisan issue where how could we in any way say anything but child slavery or modern day slavery is bad? I think the word child trafficking, I'm doing a little research right now, and I'm seeing that during the whole Sound of Freedom release, there was a lot of conspiracy theories. There was this QAnon stuff, and it seems like what I'm seeing is that the word child trafficking has been linked to all these other things, and it's part of a bucket, and that bucket means Republican or conservative or whatever it is, and so the mainstream media walks away from it. I think in our case, it's really interesting. One of the first people who saw the movie and joined as an executive producer was one of my heroes, Tony Robbins, and I feel like his involvement, and then of course Vivek Ramaswamy came on board, and he's a very controversial figure in Hollywood and in the liberal media. I think that didn't help with the mainstream media wanting to sort of ignore us, to say, and also to play on wherever they thought our weaknesses was. Like, in a couple of the reviews, it's been really interesting to me how they've gone after the identity politics, the fact that I'm not a Latino. I'm actually born in India, and I'm an immigrant myself, and my father worked in a sweatshop, so I thought that would be enough, but I've been told it's not. And then the other thing being the people that were associated with, and in the Ebert review, what was really interesting was the reviewer went after the fact that our website wasn't geared enough towards trafficking organizations and all this kind of stuff. And I'm looking at that going, hey, I'm a filmmaker. I just wanted to tell a story. I just wanted to tell a story about a boy who, you know, lost his voice and eventually ends up getting it back and fights for the freedom of others. So I'm a little disappointed that it's going into that sphere. But at the end of the day, I'm really proud of the movie. I'm proud of the fact that we have a 90% audience rating score on Rotten Tomatoes. We have an A cinema score. I'm sure you're aware, Donald Trump Jr., you know, tweeted about the film yesterday, and we've had a lot of supporters. I mean, for a little film like this, you know, Sylvester Stallone, Martin Sheen, Mira Sorvino, I mean, they've all come out publicly in support of the movie. So it is very surprising, and it's still early days. So it's a little bit of we're trying to find where we are right now in the water.
Run us through, Mo. Run us through what's the elevator pitch plot of the film without spoiling anything.
Sure. It's about a young boy from Mexico whose dreams of becoming a soccer star are shattered when he's sold to a sweatshop in downtown Los Angeles. That's the, you know, log line, we call it.
So, again, this would seem to just be apolitical, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's really interesting, too, because I focused on the journey of this kid. And it's interesting. I know how much conflict there is around the issue of the border. So what I did in my film is I actually, you know, normally when you see people crossing the border illegally, they do it by, you know, jumping the fence and the coyotes. I didn't do any of that. I just have him cross the border with a fake passport, and I don't even show it. I go to black and I come out. And I did that on purpose because I said this movie isn't about the border. It's about this kid's journey, you know? So I also noticed that not having any of the politics in the movie and not doing the film like a docudrama has also cost me, I feel. And I stand by my decision to make like a genre movie. Like it's more of a thriller than it is a docudrama. And I think in Hollywood, we're used to Moonlight, Spotlight, like these kind of movies that shine a light on an important issue. They're usually shot and they're usually executed like a docudrama. And I didn't want to do that because I grew up, you know, in Hong Kong and in the UK, and I didn't watch independent films. I watched Jurassic Park and Back to the Future and, you know, sort of very commercial movies. And I wanted to give it that feel so that it would translate to a larger audience and it wouldn't just preach to the converted, because I do feel that docudramas preach to the converted.
I'm fascinated. You said Martin Sheen was one of those who came out in support of your film, right? Just a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated because for people that don't know, I'm guessing a lot of this audience does, but if you're a millennial or Gen Z, that might not be a name that rings a bell to you. Maybe Charlie Sheen still does, his son. But I mean, Martin Sheen is a longtime outspoken Hollywood liberal.
Absolutely.
And what I find fascinating, though, is he's from a different era. You know, and, you know, there's some interesting conversations happening on the left right now where you have longtime old school liberals like Bill Maher and RFK Jr. and others coming forward and saying, you guys have just literally gone insane. I mean, I was a man of the left because I thought the right was who wanted to censor everybody. Now you guys are doing all the canceling. What is going on here? I almost kind of wonder maybe if Martin Sheen is seeing this similarly. We're like, wait a minute, this is a non-native born person who's not white, who's taken advantage of by an overall oppressive system and sold into bondage against their will. This is like every trope I tried to make into a movie in the 70s and 80s. Okay, why is this now being canceled? You see where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, he came to a screening. He was very passionate about the movie. We met. He made a video promoting the film, and it's part of our ambassador trailer. I mean, we have an ambassador trailer with Tony Robbins and Stallone and Martin Sheen and Mira Sorvino and Catherine Winnick and Frank Grillo and, you know, all working actors today in Hollywood. I mean, you know, so it is interesting. And even Vivek, I want to say that he's such, you know, having gotten to know him, he's such a good guy. And I'm not a Republican. You know, I've been a liberal my whole life. I think I'm more independent now because I'm trying to figure out what's going on. But Vivek was like, you know, it doesn't matter if you're on the left. It doesn't matter if you're on the right. It doesn't matter if you're black. It doesn't matter if you're white. Child slavery is wrong. Child trafficking is wrong. Like, I can't believe there is a debate about that. So that for me is, I can't believe identity politics, me not being a Latino, is more important than shining a light on this and on the 325,000 children that have gone missing in our country, many of whom are in supply chains of large corporations working as slaves. I mean, it's shocking.
So just to make sure the audience, just to recap everything we talked about here for the last 10 minutes, Mo.
Yeah.
You are a traditionally left of center political guy who views yourself as more of an independent, who tried to make an apolitical film about human trafficking and turn it into a thriller kind of a narrative, so it wouldn't just be, you know, a grist for the mill docudrama of someone else's political narrative, but would cause people to see the issue in a more objective setting as part of an overall, you know, original story, for example. Right. And you went out of your way to take an issue of the utmost societal importance, make it as apolitical as possible, and for that, your film's being punished, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I definitely feels strange. I've gotten all sorts of messages from influencers who tried to post about the movie saying they were being shadow banned on Instagram for posting about film and about, we received, I mean, we're still looking into that, but I did, you know, people did reach out to me and say, hey, we're being shadow banned. We noticed that the engagement of, you know, some of the larger influencers, you know, Mike Tyson came out in support of the movie. He posted a video, he uploaded it to his Instagram, and he's gotten far less engagement than he gets on other posts. It's way below average. And so seeing all of that, and then we received some reports that theaters were telling people that the movie is full, but actually they went in and there were seats. And I don't really know what's going on. I personally overall believe in good, and I believe in humanity, and I believe in people. So I feel like maybe all of this is happening so that we can talk right here, right now about it, and that the tide will eventually turn. Like, I've got to believe that, you know, the film has affected so many people, far more than I thought. I remember the first screening I did in Mexico City, there was a woman that came up to me and she was in tears, and she said, you know, every day my kids ask me to pay the coyote to cross the border, and because of your movie, I'm not going to do that. Like, I've had so many moments and instances like that. I've had so many people reach out to me and say, hey, your film broke my heart, and I'm so much better educated on this and so forth. I've got to believe that in the end, good will prevail. And I am grateful that it's out there, and we will have a long run on video after the theatrical. But yes, we definitely did not expect the mainstream media to shut us out. I mean, we keep getting requests for media, and it's all conservative media, and I don't understand why. I'm like, I really don't get this. And
yeah, your career arc doesn't typically go working with Anne Hathaway, Paul Rudd, and appearing on the Steve Deace Show on The Blaze. That's not a typical career trajectory of publicity for a filmmaker there, Mo, as you well know. Right? That's
yes, that's right. That's right.
All right.
That's very close.
Which gives you an idea of how badly they're trying to suppress your film, which is incredible to me, but shockingly not. So what can our audience do if they want to support the movie, Mo? What do you want them to do here?
I would love it if you would find the nearest theater to you, and you would go out and buy a ticket and tell your friends about the movie, because I do think it is one of the most important movies right now of our time, because it's highlighting one of the most rampant issues in our country. Like, one thing I want to say is, when these social issue movies come out, they're usually docudramas, they're not very entertaining, but more importantly, they're about an issue that's in our past. And this is an issue that is #1 in the country right now. And I think it would be really great for people across the board to go and see the film. It is playing in theaters right now, and tickets are available on Fandango and all the usual sites. So I would ask that people go, be open-minded, and if the film affects you, which I believe it will, that they take action. You know, we have a website, cityofdreamsmovie.com. We've partnered with A21, one of the largest anti-trafficking organizations. You know, we do want to be part of introducing legislation. I know we're talking about doing a screening for Congress with Tony Robbins and with Vivek. So, you know, we're doing our part, and I hope that, you know, your audience can come out and support us.
So cityofdreamsmovie.com is the website, guys. cityofdreamsmovie.com. Get out and see it at theaters as well. cityofdreamsmovie.com. It's, as Mo just said, it's an issue that is pressing right now at this very moment in the country. And thank you for making the movie, Mo. Definitely going to get out and see it myself. And hopefully we did a little bit to help you guys get around the censorship that's going on. God bless you. Thank you, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Steve. Thanks for having me, man. It was a blast. And I love your sports jersey. Like, is that it?
It's Iowa State week here at home. So yeah, I got to represent. Thank you, man.
No worries, man. Take care.
All right. Take care. All right. So Todd and Aaron, I didn't want to do this to Mo, but now that he's gone, let's look at this now from our own perspective here as righties. It is not a good look that there is something about the human trafficking issue in particular that the pillars of power on the American left do not want that presented, whether it's from Angel Studios, okay, and all their right-wing street cred, or a man of the left like Mo, who we just heard from, who has worked with major Hollywood stars and won awards. This issue in particular, man, they do not want it highlighted, no matter who's doing the highlighting, and that is not a good look, Todd.
Yeah, we have two problems. The general problem is there are forces at work that they get to decide what you care about, when you care about it, and how you care about it, no matter what the issue is. And nothing is allowed to transcend it. There's no transcendent issues anymore. This is a Mean Girls culture. They decide, and there's a whole population that's in on that. What's trending? What am I supposed to care about? And then specifically, of course, those powers want sex trafficking. The public schools are fully staffed by sex traffickers. So they're not going to want to get away on this. People might start connecting dots. So everybody's got to stay asleep. So we got two problems, the general problem and the specific one, and they're both terrible.
Amen.
Other than that, though, we've got a lot of stuff going for us. It's incredible to hear his genuine dumbfoundedness of why conservative media is the right-wing media is the only media that's actually reaching out to him to promote this film. It's hearing that is kind of like a smack in the face. Like, yeah, you can talk about wink and nod. Hollywood doesn't want to do films about human trafficking, and then when you hear somebody like Mo come on here and say, "I don't understand why this is not getting any traction amongst Hollywood," it is like a slap in the face. There is something there.
And it's not benign or innocent. It's not. Hour 2 is next. Let's play some buy, sell, or hold, and it'll be your turn. You'll take over the show when we return. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, Hour 2 here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace with Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre, and you can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. You can email us, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Getter, Instagram, and TikTok. And then if you follow the podcast version, please, if you like the show, leave us a 5-star review, and we appreciate all of you who have done that for us. You can also hit follow on iTunes or subscribe everywhere else, and that'll ensure that every time we do a new episode, it'll show up in your feed every single time, and we appreciate all of those as well. And this part of the show, Buy, Sell, or Hold, brought to you by our great friends at Patriot Mobile. I know we lament all the time, man, we wish we had more of a parallel economy, more opportunities to not have to give business and money to people who hate us. Thankfully, there is one industry where it is fully developed, and that's with our mobile phones. One product we all pretty much need to thrive in modern America. Make the switch today to the outstanding U.S.-based customer service team at Patriot Mobile. They'll give you access to all their major networks nationwide. You can switch at any time. So if you move and one network is stronger than another, you make that switch as a member of Patriot Mobile anytime you want for free. They'll customize it for you. You can switch your phone, upgrade your phone, switch your number, keep your number. However you want to roll, they will make it roll for you. And if you make the switch today, you get a free month of service when you use my name, Steve, as your offer code at patriotmobile.com/Steve. A free month of service to you at patriotmobile.com/Steve. Again, head over to patriotmobile.com/Steve. That's the exact mobile phone service I use. We're a Patriot Mobile household here in the Deace homestead. patriotmobile.com/Steve. Let's get to it. It is time to buy, sell, or hold. You guys have the submissions. We have not seen them, the we being Todd and I. We will respond to the ones Aaron has selected from all of you in real time. We're going to see them all for the first time right now. Each time that we do, we will either buy it, we will either sell it, or we will make a punk move and we will hold. However, if you hold for any reason whatsoever, and I mean any reason, there is no justifiable reason not to take a position. If you hold, all right, what could be degrading that we haven't made you do yet? What could be degrading we haven't made you do yet?
Should we do a Todd specific one? You have to hold a lightsaber while watching 12 hours of college football straight.
How about you got to hold Lindsey Graham's lightsaber?
No lightsabers of any kind.
Yes, I think the silence was all the affirmation I needed. That was the right decision. Thank you, Aaron, for being my muse. Let us begin.
We will begin with uncontexted Deace 2 Electric Boogaloo, who says Todd will start his own side podcast where he shares his take on a variety of updates, such as Black Mirror updates, Set Your Feet updates, Sports Bros updates, Love is Love updates, Blessing of Liberty updates, etc. And each episode with he'll end that with Hail Hydra.
First of all, I love that graphic. I love Todd in the Anchorman late 80s, early 90s hairdo.
From Saturday Night Live, I think.
Is that what it's from? Like Weekend Update on SNL? Yep. Got it. But I love that getup. I love it. But I'm going to sell. I can't see Todd being that level of committed that he would create an entire part-time job for himself. I'll sell.
Well, I'm open to all offers that, expand the coattails. That this is, it's not just going to be like me out there riffing, but hey, if we want to put some dollar signs on this thing, talk to me.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, Todd's not doing a vanity project. Not doing that. Right. And so unless somebody makes that offer, I just can't see him taking on that extra work for the cause. Can't see it.
Next, we go to Jeffrey Preston Bezos Stan account, who says, at this point, everyone right, left, up, down, diagonal is just waiting to see what happens in November. Nobody really knows what's going to happen then or afterwards.
I as of today, I buy this. Now, what could change that is next week's debate, if it happens. I think, Aaron, you have talked me into the position that they're trying to get out of it on the Democratic side if they can. I'm not confident they'll be able to without really looking bad, but I'd say 80% odds it happens. So if this debate happens and she goes in there and shines, I think that will have a dramatic impact. She goes in there and face plants and reminds everybody she's a moronic nitwit. I think that could have a dramatic impact as well. We talked on yesterday's show about how, for the first time ever, Trump is actually polling ahead of the Republican Party. And you can just see with the amount of ad investment and air war investment in many of these Senate races. I think it was Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, and Michigan. The Republican Party has essentially just given up on those Senate races. And that means Trump has to overcome the spending that'll be against him from the Senate candidates too. But I could, Aaron, you and I were also talking about this after the show yesterday. I could spin that the other way and say that the kind of candidate that Trump is, mercurial, craven, actually not having a party that he has to remain in tight alignment with, but can just operate completely as a free agent and, box and weave, Muhammad Ali style, rope-a-dope this thing. He's in, he's out, he's moving around. Doesn't have to worry about, well, if I go too far one way, is this group of Republicans that want to win their seats, are they going to undercut me if I go too far that way? Will this group of Republicans do it? I mean, the Republican Party is, a big tarp of barely affiliated belief systems united just by a disgust for Democrats, right? And so in some respects, I could make the case that would make him a better candidate, to be untethered from that, to be free to just YOLO, wing it, and not care about, unintended consequences. That tends to be when he's at his best as a political figure. And so the fact the Republican Party is behind him, and I don't mean loyal as he would like, but behind him in terms of positioning in this election, may give him more freedom to say and do the things that might be necessary to win. But again, I don't know that. I think a lot of this is going to be determined how much certainty we have by that debate next week and how Kamala Harris performs. But as of right now, between now and that debate, I do agree with this, and I'll buy every syllable.
I get it, but I'll sell. There's just a lot of Trump voters who don't think that way. And I've talked to some of them. They think, that he's gonna come on. He's got to win. The other side is so dumb. It's so lame. They just aren't understanding the terra firma yet. So I've got to sell. And it was like, 3 weeks ago, I predicted regarding the debate when Josh Hammer was on, maybe it was even longer still, that she wouldn't debate, and she also wouldn't have any non-scripted interviews. And that remains true so far. I mean, that thing with Tim Walz and Bash, that's definitely scripted. So I still don't think that debate's going to happen.
All right, next we go to China Compass, who says buy, sell, hold, as in New York, China has multiple government employees on the take in every blue state government and most red states.
Buy.
I think this is absolutely true. I mean, I might go so far as to just say every single state. I will buy.
Next, we go to Luke Taylor, Fox News.
Hold on, Aaron, Todd, you got an answer on that one?
I said buy, yeah.
Oh, did you? My bad. Okay, I missed it. All right, sorry, Aaron.
Fox News will be the last mainstream media outlet to call Arizona this November. I could totally see that.
That is a very snotty post, and I'm digging that. So just in terms of the amount of snottiness there, I'm just going to buy that on the merits of that alone.
It's snotty, but I'll sell. The Fox is going to double down, and I mean, they hold you in contempt just as much as the left wing news outlets is. So they're going to do it again.
In many respects, why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, they get to put their thumb on the scale of primaries, and they get to fire their most marketable talent that was the most closely aligned with their own viewing base. In the end, they are invulnerable. I mean, they pay no price whatsoever. So I don't know why they wouldn't do what Todd said, now that I think about it. But I'm still going to vote. I'm still going to buy just because I like how snotty the proposition was.
Next up, we go to John Baxter, who says, in hindsight, it was a tactical mistake for Trump to agree with the early debate with Biden. It gave the Democrats plenty of time before September to insert Kamala and create a long runway for her makeover and agitprop. If he doesn't do the debate, the Democrats have no cause to kick him to the curb because there is no public evidence.
I'm going to completely sell on this. I think sometimes, guys, the other team is good. I think sometimes, the other teams, their guys are on scholarship too. I think sometimes, those were first round draft picks as well. You tip your cap to the Democrats here. They put Joe Biden and Donald Trump both in an untenable position. If Donald Trump does not debate Joe Biden there, the entire Democrat machine, Joe Biden goes into the closet. They don't risk a transition. They put him in the basement. They don't have to risk retconning Kamala Harris. And they just spend the next 6 months brutally mocking Trump for being a wimp. And that is, I think, toxic to Trump's own brand. He had to accept the debate. There was no other out. Now, you could argue that effectively that's how it turned out, But that only reinforces my premise that sometimes the other teams got good players too. Sometimes the other teams got good coaches too. Sometimes you just got. Sometimes you just got beat. And Donald Trump was not in a position where he could risk the fallout of not taking advantage of maybe his one and only opportunity to Joe Biden, or to debate Joe Biden. He could not guarantee for sure that if Biden failed, he would be replaced. I mean, listen, I said it 5 minutes after the debate on the Blaze that night, but I also didn't think it was going to take him nearly a month to get rid of him either. I mean, I thought it was going to happen pretty soon. Man, that old fart held on a lot longer than even they thought. They had to pull out all the guns, including a statement they released on a Sunday that he probably didn't even write. Okay, announcing he was dropping out. So if you're Trump, this is certain. What's certain is if you don't take it, this might be your only opportunity to expose who Biden is. You don't really know what the fallout is for sure, but you know what the fallout will be against you if you don't. You will get punked. And that just, he had to accept the debate. And, they're actually willing to use their leverage points to their advantage. We're not. But tip your cap. Sometimes the other team's just pretty good at this.
Yeah, overall, I'm with Steve. I mean, at least the submission said in hindsight. So, kind of saying if not necessarily should he have made a different decision, but did somehow this boomerang back on Trump? Well, yes, but if Republicans thought like every decision Republicans make somehow boomerangs back on them, just because there's so many people liars out there who won't tell the truth of what actually happened. So you going on offense and doing whatever you have to do to sleep well at night is always the way to go against these demons.
Next, we go to Gen X Kid, who says he's got a list. Top 10 items with no legitimate use, 2024 edition. Number 10, Facebook.
I wish that were the case, but it is still the number one way our audiences on the right access our content. So sell. I wish that was true, but it's sadly not. Sell.
Todd.
Yeah, I agree with Steve.
Number 9, the Republican Party.
I wish this were true, but it's the only agency people have. And I know there's a strong argument made by including people I like and respect that if it didn't exist, something naturally would arise to take its place. I agree that would be the case. What we don't know is how long that would take and the amount of damage that would be done. Meaning we finally got a political party that lines up with our values and beliefs, guys. Unfortunately, we're all in gulags now. So sell again.
There's a paradox here. I agree with Steve. This was actually true like 15 years ago, but now we're at like the 11th hour and we need something. So
yeah, now we're just throwing whatever we can at the system now. Yes. Yeah. That's a great point, Todd. Yep.
Next, number 8, 3-letter agencies that operate domestically.
That I agree. There's no legitimate use for that. All right, that is what Woody Hayes once said about the forward pass. 3 things can happen and 2 of them are bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take my chances getting rid of any and all of them.
Number 7, electronic medical records.
I'm going to sell because I know why. I think I might know why this is here. But you're also in a situation nowadays where there are so many waits for specialists and everything else. If you have urgent care or a serious situation, my wife's got a serious tooth issue right now, all right, that's been bothering her for a week. She finally got in to see the dentist, she then had to get referred to a specialist to see if she needs a root canal, who then just told her this morning it'll be 8 more days until they can figure out whether she needs one or not. So she's going to have to just live with this pain. At this point, I understand the dangers of these, but anything that streamlines the process at this point in time, I think if we got rid of electronic medical records, it would actually hurt us more than the system because it would just reduce us to carrier pigeon status. And we're already cogs in the machine as it is. So I'll sell.
But I think I assume streamlining the system is what this the cautionary tale this guy is talking about. So, and it's basically digital ID. And if that's what's behind all this, I'm surmising, I'm guessing, then I'd have to agree, because it's basically they're trying to make this our entire identity and whether we're allowed to be free or engage in commerce.
Number 6 on the top 10 items with no legitimate use 2024 edition, lobbyists.
I'll sell. Again, I think it depends on what you're lobbying for.
Yeah, I'll sell. This is a moral and religious people and no other. Or, yeah.
Number 5, legacy media.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, absolutely
100%
true.
buy that. No legitimate use whatsoever. None.
Number 4, federal funding of schools and universities.
I'll buy that too. 100%.
Yes.
Yep.
Number 3, whole cloth vaccines.
Yes.
I'm probably going to buy that as well, just on the basis of, I don't know, I've mentioned this before, but the last interview that Daniel and I did for Rise of the Fourth Reich, and we got off the phone, and we always did a debrief after every interview. Where do we want to take this? What do we think? What stood out to us, et cetera. And we're doing that for I think it was the last interview we did. And it was actually Vera Sharav, the concentration camp survivor, was our last interview. And she's the last one in the book too. And Daniel just said these words to me and just, cut me deep, Shrek. He said, this isn't the first time they've done stuff like this, right? And I just think you have to reassess your position on this, given the way they behaved at a moment when we needed the system they told us that they were and promised us we had. We needed it more than we've ever needed it before, and it not only failed us, but made everything worse. So I just think you have to take this position and reassess whole cloth your view of the situation and start all over again. So for that reason, I will buy.
That's right. You know what I think.
Number 2, the NFL kickoff. Top 10 items with no legitimate use.
Let's see how this plays out. I'm very, very dubious, this new kickoff thing. Okay. And it just strikes me as progressivism, a solution in search of a problem. Okay. Well, maybe we can bring the kickoff back, but have it not be, because it was an exciting play people loved, but have it not be as dangerous, because it is true. But 70% more injuries occur on kickoffs and punts than any other play in football, at the collegiate and pro level. And it's the typical, I think anyway, it'll turn out to be the typical progressive idea that you can sanitize everything. It's just not about the equality of opportunity, but outcome in and of itself as well. And utopias always end up creating dystopias. So I suspect that's going to be the case. But for now, I'll sell just because we haven't even seen a game yet. Let's let it play out. But I think we're probably going to think that by the end of the season.
I hate to break it to you guys, but all of football has no legitimate purpose. We're starting both seasons in a foreign country. Name, image, and likeness, transfer portals, ruining everything. Guys, come on. Yeah, you're going to masturbate over the kickoff? This is the thing? None of it makes sense.
Our fear, Todd, is that we won't be able to.
None of it
won't get us going anymore the way it used to. That it won't. Aaron, your thoughts?
And the number 1 thing, Gen X Kid says, top 10 items with no legitimate use 2024 edition. Number 1, wasps.
I am sure that the Lord created them for a reason. They're some form of necessary predator slash vital instrument of the ecosystem. But in the context of being in my office and in my studio that I pay for, they have absolutely no use whatsoever. So in that context, I will buy.
Yeah, nature's resilient, man. It just it's a plucky little thing we've got going on here on this mortal coil.
All right, moving on, we go to Aaron Reale, who says, if you believe Winston Churchill is the real villain of World War II, you might be an intellectual redneck.
Going back to that clip, Aaron, that you played, and first of all, I'm buying this, but I think of some of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my entire career. George W. Bush, we have to suspend free market principles to save the free market, always sticks out to me. Always sticks out to me. Among the dumbest things I've ever heard in my career. Somebody said something like a year ago, guys. Didn't I say, what was it that rivaled that? Do you guys remember what it was? I don't. But I thought it was on that list with that statement. Do you guys remember what I'm talking about?
No.
Profoundly just stupid on its face. Okay. Let me put the clip that you played in your montage somewhere in the vicinity. We're at least calling a fair catch, to use another NFL special teams term. We're at least, in that zone. Winston Churchill didn't kill the most people or commit the most atrocities, but he's the real baddie of World War II, is absolutely one of the dumbest things I have ever heard in my career on its face. I mean, just sheer stupidity. I mean, I don't know what other standard we come from and come to the idea of who the villain is other than who killed the most people and committed the most atrocities. Is there another standard for villain than that? Do we have another standard? When we're comparing which one of these is the hero, which one is the villain? Who committed the most atrocities? Typically, guys, is the differentiator in determining who the good guy was and who the bad guy was. Can I get an amen on that? Absolutely one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my career.
I see people panning, and of course, I know what they mean. Just asking questions. It's okay to ask questions about history. It is okay.
Is your wife a whore? Just asking questions.
Yeah, but if it leads you to, well, maybe Adolf. No, I'm just never going to go there. I'm just never going to do that. I don't understand that. That's an indication. If you're leading to, well, Adolf Hitler is more complicated. You're doing some form of eisegesis with your historical analysis,
correct,
putting in there what you want to hear.
Is your dead mother or grandmother turning tricks in hell? I don't know. I'm just asking questions. We're just asking questions. That's all we're doing. Just asking.
Well, here's why this is happening, and it's the only way it's going to stop. If we don't address what I'm going to talk about, it's going to get worse. And I think, Steve, you kind of at least inferred this in your introduction. The thing that serves no purpose that we talked about, whatever it was, the mainstream media, that needs to be brought down. It needs to be destroyed because there's a whole section of it's not a press anymore. It is pure propaganda, and that the reaction. This is it. And for people, there's a gatekeeper, and then there's the decisions made. And Steve and I have had this argument off air about exactly what Tucker is doing. And I think Tucker has just got no gatekeeper. I don't care how weird it is. I'm going to ask about it because I so hate that. And it's going to lead to a lot of bad places on the other side, too. That's why let's see what Andrew Tate is talking about. That's weird. Well, this is yin and yang stuff. The modern industrial media has got to be destroyed. Otherwise, we're going to be careening off in all directions.
I don't disagree at all, and that's why I led off discussing this last hour by setting the stage of where this is coming from.
Yeah.
Okay. That I don't really think a lot of people start off in these places. I think they end up here because of exactly, Todd, what you just articulated. Some of you are contacting me, why are we talking about this and not Kamala? I'm not the one. I don't have the biggest. Tucker Carlson, I love Tucker, by the way. Okay. I like Tucker personally a lot. Haven't always agreed, but I like him personally a lot. In fact, I'll let you guys in on something Todd and Aaron know, but very few other people do. You wouldn't have J.D. Vance for a VP if it weren't for Tucker. I can promise you that. Well, Tucker and Don Jr. I can promise you that. And likely Trump picks Burgum or somebody way less inspiring without those guys. And I mean, I talked to Tucker during the convention. Thanked him for the influence he wielded to get somebody like J.D. Vance in there who could actually potentially carry the baton forward. And I didn't even know how he was going to perform as a candidate yet. And I think we all agree J.D. Vance has been spectacular by and large since he was put on the ticket. Is that kind of a position all three of us have to some varying degree?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So this isn't personal. I haven't always agreed. Didn't really like how he handled the GOP primary, but the voters had their say, and I just want to beat the communist. I've totally moved on from that, to some of your collective chagrins. But I'm not the one. I didn't use the #1 rated podcast on the right, which is what Tucker has now. I didn't use the #1 rated podcast on the right 9 weeks from an election to entertain an actually Hitler conversation. I didn't do that. Okay? He did. Would not be my preference talking about this. It would not. And if I had the #1 platform on the right, we wouldn't be. Okay? I mean, and I'm not even upset that he had the conversation. Now I know that the guy he talked to is a total moron. So I learned that. I didn't know who he was. Now I learned that. I won't take him seriously moving forward. So did me a favor, But I'm not the one who said, guys, let's take a timeout from exposing the fact Tim Walz's family is disgusted by their own groomer family member on the ticket and who lies about even how his own children were conceived, let alone his stolen valor. And Kamala Harris is an open communist running on taxing unrealized gains. I didn't make the programming decision to say, let's take a time out from that and see if maybe Hitler needs to be retconned. I didn't make that programming
This is a
call.
very, very interesting point because it echoes some Abigail Schreier. She's been on our show. She has a very specific topic that she talks about. But she was online saying it's not so much the fact that the conversation happened at all. It's the timing. And she actually said out loud, does Tucker secretly want Kamala to win? That's why this is really interesting.
I mean, I just think in terms of political branding, hey, let's have the people that call us Nazis and Trump is literally Hitler. Let's have the most prominent pro-Trump voice in the country.
Exactly.
Host a actually Hitler conversation 9 weeks from the election. I don't understand that, man. I don't. But maybe there's something hey, Lord knows he's way more successful than me. Okay. And I think he's absolutely, I think it's arguable that Tucker Carlson's the most important voice that the right has produced when you look at his collective work since Rush Limbaugh. I think you can make that argument. Okay. So maybe there's something me sitting in my basement in West Des Moines, Iowa, I don't understand. Okay. But someone's going to need to explain to me why 9 weeks from Trump has to win or America is over, and we are sitting here on the precipice of the end of all things, Bilbo, okay, and Frodo. But in the midst of that, we need to call it T.O., baby, as Dickie V would say, and let's retcon Hitler with some dude like no one knows except one sliver corner of reformed right. I have no idea why, but I'm not making those decisions, and people that are way more successful than me are making them, so they must know what they're doing, and I must be the moron. It's entirely possible.
All right, moving on, we go to John Bellick, hardshell taco detonator, who says, when the Fed comes storming at the door with a break and a bust or a serve warrant, the normies will finally get it.
Sell.
Well, I'll buy that.
They will not come to the normies. The normies normies will join with them against us.
It's going to take at least that.
More in a moment. All right, guys, there's an opportunity coming up for the women in your life, one that you're not going to want them to miss out on. It's coming up on September the 28th there in Dallas, Texas. It's called the Share the Arrows event. It's a day dedicated to equipping women with the clarity and courage to navigate today's world with both conviction and grace. Also a chance for women to come together and fellowship with other women who are ready to stand firm in truth and fellowship. It's going to be led by our very own Allie Beth Stuckey, as well as incredible speakers like Rosario Butterfield. And if you have not heard her story before, in fact, it's an oversight on my part that she's never been on our show, because her story is incredible. All right. Just one of the many speakers there, live music there as well. I think I remember how to pronounce this, from Francesca Battistelli. All right. The event made possible with the generous support of Carly Jean Los Angeles. That's a brand that aligns with our values of truth and faith, so you can help all the God-fearing women in your life experience powerful teaching, encouraging fellowship, inspiring worship by attending this amazing event. Go to sharethearrows.com today, and you can select one of their numerous packages there. That's Share the Arrows, plural, sharethearrows.com today. Sharethearrows.com. I thought there was one more thing I wanted to say about this last proposition. Aaron, what was the last proposition? Can you put it back up there again?
I have to advance through all the slides because I literally just advanced.
Okay. Then it's not that important. We'll just continue on. I was sure there was something else I wanted to say, but then I forgot.
All right. John Belak. When the feds come storming at their door with a break and bust or serve warrant, the normies will finally get it.
Yeah. Here's the thing. This is why I'm concerned about the amount of time we have left. All right. History shows there is a limited window to reach various people that we are now describing as normies. And that if you do not reach them in that window, what happens is you lose them. And then you go from normies to collaborators, to informants. And it's your normie family members and in-laws who are now on the sidewalk, leading them to your house, tisking, I wish it didn't have to turn out like this, as they're leading you away for wrongthink. We have a limited window right now to reach normies. If we do not take advantage of this window, we will lose them, and they will become simps. You don't stay normie forever. All right? This idea of neutrality is not true. And both the dark and the light want a choice to be made. What will happen is the dark will lull us into sleeping and complacency that we don't have to choose. And really, that's just the darkness buying itself some time until it has advantage, or it perceives to. It has hegemony, or it perceives itself to. And then what you're going to see real quick is that Thanos snap happens, and the darkness is the one now compelling choices everywhere you go. That's what's happening in our culture right now. The 90s and the 2000s, we were lulled into this idea we were going to live in this neutral zone forever. No, we weren't. The darkness was just biding time until it had institutional advantage. It now believes that it does. And so now the freak flags will fly and choices will be made. The normies will be freaked out by this because they've convinced themselves and been told, and a lot of times by their megapolis Pottery Barn churches, that people like us are the radicals and making stuff up, and this stuff's not true and doesn't really exist. Well, now dudes and their hairy rectums are twerking in their kids' faces. There is a limited window right now to take advantage of this and mobilize them and try to radicalize them. But I promise you, if you miss it, now how wide the window is, how long it stays open, I'm not God. I'm not a capital P prophet. I don't know the future. I don't know. Is it this cycle? Do we have 10 more years? 10 more minutes? I don't know the answer. I just know it's not perpetual. The clock hits 0. Time is up. And then at that point, everybody's just like, this is the new normal now, so that I can continue to live a life of complacency and comfort. And so this goes back to the 2022 election and why that so freaked me out. Is we didn't get the flood of normies that I thought were going to organically happen. So we not only, that's why I didn't think we were even going to get a red wave. I thought we were going to have a red wedding. And the normies didn't show up. That's a gulp. And that tells me, for those of you that are like, I can't believe Steve is still, Trump didn't apologize for the vaccines and he's still out there doing this, and I can't believe it. He's sold out, even though I'm living in the same house I have for the last 19 years now. All right. No, guys, I paid attention to the 2022 election. The normies did not respond to the transing of their own kids. I believe we're running out of time to radicalize normies. I could be wrong, but that's the framework I'm operating out of after this last election. That the time is short, and if all the cartilage leaves the knee, then you're just left with bone on bone, and that's the stuff of friction in history books. So that is my concern. Normies either get radicalized or they get mobilized against you. So for the knock to come on their door would mean they got radicalized and they're no longer normies. Otherwise, the knock's not going to come on their door. The normies will lead them to knocking on ours.
See, what I think is interesting about that, I agree less with you about that than I agree with Nefarious. And this is interesting because you wrote Nefarious. But I think we're out of time. Which means I think this is revival or bust. I think Nefarious is right. The normies don't want to change. They can't change anymore, which is why you wrote the book the way you did. You're telling them, game over. And I'm not worried about it. I know there's plenty of time on the clock, but game over because you're you. See, that's why revival or bust is the truest thing we said. This is something beyond ourselves. And it's our eternal salvation, that's true. But temporarily, we're not capable of doing this anymore. We're not interested.
What did you see? That's a great point, Todd. What did you see? But back to, just to give you an example, because it ties into what we were talking about elsewhere today, too. What did you see in Germany in the 1930s? You know, while Hitler was being provoked to seek world dominion by Winston Churchill, who was in political exile, apparently, and still had all this power. What were you seeing? What did the normies do in Germany? Ignored it, ignored it, ignored it, ignored it. Then when it got to the point they could no longer ignore, but they had to make a choice, did they get radicalized or mobilized? The latter. There is a limited window. And Todd may be right. And we will maybe learn that on November the 5th. I hope not. But the window to radicalize the normies does not stay open forever. That I know. I don't know for sure if it's already closed, but I just know that it doesn't stay open forever.
All right. Along those lines, Sean Luloff says Harris will beat Trump without needing the margin of stealing or cheating.
Sell. I think she's going to win, but I think it's going to be within the margin.
Based on the polling narrative that exists right now, I have to sell. I mean, they don't have a public narrative to justify that. They don't, which is why Biden had to go. Again, it wasn't that they didn't think they could conjure up the votes they needed, but they just knew no one was going to buy that guy after what they just saw. After 80 million people watched that, they weren't going to go buy that 80 million people then voted for this guy again. So they needed somebody new. Okay. Right now, they don't have the polling narrative for that. Their own media is warning them of this. So I will sell now. Ask me this question after the debate. I might have a different answer, but for now, I'm going to sell.
Next, we go to Mind Game, who says Taylor Swift will endorse Kamala Harris at a Chiefs game on Sunday Night Football. This would be absolutely devastating for the Trump campaign, and Todd would explode.
I'm going to sell. I don't know how it would be devastating to the Trump campaign. I mean, I'm not saying she doesn't have a lot of influence. She does. I'm not one who on the right who says nobody cares what celebrities think. I'm always the guy that points out the two most popular presidents the right has produced on our own side over the last, or most popular with their own side, I should say, over the last 50 years, were both celebrities before they ever ran, Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump. So everybody cares what celebrities think. Whether they should or not is a different question, but everybody does. But I also kind of think that if you're moved by Taylor Swift's voice, you probably weren't even considering voting for Donald Trump in the first place. So I don't know how that would be devastating to him. I don't. It would just, that's a sunk cost. I don't have I'm probably not going to get 80% of the Taylor Swift concert goer vote. I'm sure this is probably not breaking news to the folks down at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, I can't buy on the devastating part, but I'll buy that this can happen. And if you mean exploding, me just saying I told you so about these being soap operas for men, then you'd be right, because there was a time when he would never dare do something like this because of, this is why would you go to this audience and do something like that? But now you would absolutely go to this audience and do something like that.
I also think the odds that Taylor Swift will do something like this with the Mahomes now being public about Trump support, I think the odds actually go up.
Next up, we go to Denethor 2024, who says Steve needs to have a beekeeper suit on set for emergency situations like wasp attacks.
You know, we never did ask the Blaze, would you prefer me to stay at the studio but dress like that every day until summer ends, or to have me here makeshift at home? I'm not entirely sure what they would have chosen. I might have gotten different answers depending on who I asked. But I also love how snotty that is, so I will buy it.
Yeah, I'll sell. You're good over there. You're nice and placid and calm. There's been far fewer bee analogies on this show, so I think we've made the right decision.
Have you guys seen any today?
Nope.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it. I knew it.
All right, moving on. We
saw 4 of them yesterday, just for the record, and you guys will back me up on that.
Chit Bat Crazy, who says the NFL is implementing facial authentication for game day staff, vendors, and media this year. Buy, sell, or hold in 2025. They'll roll it out for all fans entering the stadium with nary a peep.
Yeah, buy. There's no... Why would there be a pause button on this happening based on... It just... As long as they get their football. Did you see the poll I did this weekend? Transing the kids won. As long as they get their football, they'll do anything. Just leave me alone. You can even my wife's transing my kids right now. What more do you need? Learn the lessons. People aren't interested in being citizens. And it's true. My goodness, if an alien came down and listened to the level of existential angst that people are currently having about our body politic or culture, and then they went and looked at football weekend. Yay, parade! We're an insane people. We're not serious.
I don't even want to try to step to that. I'm just going to buy, because now I'm afraid.
Next, James says Donald Trump's inauguration speech from Rikers Island would be the most watched TV program in the history of modern television.
Here's the thing. That's not even entirely out of the question here. That's what's funny. We still got a sentencing coming up later this month, guys. Everybody's forgotten about that. I mean, I did until I just saw that that buy, sell, or hold submission. It's not even, I mean, I don't know what the odds are. I wouldn't say they're 50-50, but they're not nothing that could actually occur. Okay. So I got to say props to you for even remembering that and thinking of that. I got to buy that. You bet.
I like it, but I'm on a roll now. And I've got to sell because that's not remotely true if there's a football game on. Yeah, well, typically these are on Tuesdays, right, in January, so there won't be one, typically.
Yeah.
We'll be in the playoffs, but it won't be on a Tuesday. So.
Ha, Todd, take that. Davis Ross says the show needs a new weekly segment called What's the Buzz, updating us on the wasp problem in the studio.
No, we don't.
No, I got to sell.
We really don't.
Yeah, I'm so sick of talking about bees, man. Believe me, I'm beyond sick of it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Next, we go to C-Dub, who says the Longhorns will be the first team outside the Big Ten in 10 years to win inside the Big House.
I mean, I think Texas is going to win convincingly. Michigan doesn't have a playable quarterback. But it's okay. We won the Natty, so it doesn't matter. But I think Texas is going to win convincingly. I'll buy.
Yeah.
Do you know who I muted on Twitter first this weekend? I only muted one person between Todd and Michigan podcast. I saw that poll that you ran, Todd. I almost muted you after that. I could not stand Steve's shtick on Michigan podcast Twitter.
I thought I was actually being pretty reserved, frankly. That's what cracks me up. You know what also cracked? What other show has the host all admitting, man, you just irritated the hell out of me. I had to mute you. Just ridiculous.
Hey, I mean, whatever you did over the weekend was so beyond the pale. I had to shut you off. Yeah, we're keeping it real over here.
We do. I don't know of another show that does stuff like that. You know, it's amazing. You bet.
Well, it's because you say things like we won the Natty over.
We did. And we won the Natty. We won it.
No, Michigan won the Natty.
We won the Natty. I mean, I'm sitting down here. I've done my 41 years of service and dedication.
No.
So we won.
No.
We did.
No.
We won the Natty. We did.
No. Yeah.
I mean, I was an unofficial advisor to Connor Stallions last year. I literally played a part of that.
You said that out loud, too. Yeah,
we won the Natty.
That was interesting.
We did. Yep, we did.
Let's talk about bees again.
Steve Ballard said the Ravens will not only cover, but win the game outright against the Chiefs tomorrow night.
Here's a crazy stat, by the way. Lamar Jackson, as an underdog, 11-1 against the spread as a quarterback in the NFL. 11-1. That's pretty crazy. So I don't know if they'll win outright, but I'll take the Ravens to cover. So do I have to take them to win outright too?
Yes.
Then I'll sell.
So you're selling.
I don't care.
Okay. Next up.
Keep the football submissions coming, I think, is the moral of this story, ladies and gentlemen. Yes.
Sheepdog says, top 5 movies Steve is no longer able to watch without Todd sitting next to him. Number 5, The Wasp. Number 4,
nice.
Ant-Man and the Wasp. Number 3,
nice.
The Wasp Women. Number 2, Luther. And number 1, Wicker Man.
You guys ever seen The Wicker Man? You ever seen that?
No.
With
No.
Who's the great actor from Hammer Films? Not Peter Cushing, but played Count Dooku.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he's in The Wicker Man. The Wicker Man.
Christopher.
Yes, I can't remember his name. He passed away a few years ago, but The Wicker Man is one of the best occult horror films of all time. One of the best ever.
Christopher Lee.
That's one of the most haunting endings ever, in fact.
All right, that's it. We'll have more bonus Spy Seller Hold on Overtime.
We will. And hopefully we'll have some more Hammer Films submissions, but we probably won't. We're back at it again tomorrow, noon to 2 Eastern, right after Glenn Beck, right here on Blaze TV. Until then, Romans 8:28.